biggest thing is the ability to make an impact.
From that moment onwards, we moved from being a brand that advertised to a brand that communicated.
We collaborate with our clients, and over time, we try and get them to fire us.
You must have to have really difficult conversations.
I want to see no office wall. I want to see everything covered in ideas.
There's so much data available that you can kind of get dazzled by it. And
I have.
What the hell are you doing?
Hello, my name's Katie Sando and welcome to the Marketing Forum podcast, where we hear from experienced and inspirational folk across marketing, communications, creative and business. In this episode, I'm joined by the wonderful Mel Larson. She's a marketer and coach, founder of Mel Larsen Associates and Dream Project Coach. She was marketing in the arts, culture and heritage sector when she was inspired to become a coach after noticing how negative leaders were being about their goals. In this episode, we chat about why coaches are going to change the world, the importance of visions, bear with us on that one, and how we can challenge our own thinking to become better in business and life. I really hope you enjoy.
So, Mel Larson, you are a Dream Project Coach and you have Mel Larsen Associates as well, don't you?
That's right. Yeah, I've got sort of two heads, as it were.
So, I'm really interested in your kind of experience of being both a coach and a marketer. I think it's really interesting, but also actually there is quite a few people that kind of moving into that coaching space from marketing, I've noticed recently. But I'm really interested, what came first? Were you marketer first and then moved into coaching, or was it the other way around?
That's a really great question. And you're absolutely right. There are lots of people who are doing both now. I began as a marketer, and I started to notice that you can have all the marketing strategy in the world, but if you don't have a positive mindset, it's not going to work. And I'm hesitating because I feel I'm about to sneeze. It's not okay. We're good. We're good. Sorry about that, Casey.
You're fine.
We are living in COVID times.
I know.
You just never know.
To sneeze, just do it.
It's gone. It's gone. And yeah, you know, people were just. I noticed that so many people were sort of being negative about their goals, doing themselves down. And they would have these great strategies, but then if as a leader, they weren't feeling positive and inspired about the future, then they couldn't inspire their teams and they weren't getting the results that they could get. So I started to see we need to have the two together. And I was noticing other coaches who were like marketing coaches doing the same. And I realized that I'm really good at this. I could do this. You know, this is my zone. This is exactly what I want to do, which, you know, years later has been proven correct. I absolutely love doing it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a good sign, isn't there, when there's loads of people. Well, it's an interesting space because I think there is plenty of people that are moving into that space, probably for different reasons. So I wouldn't have said necessarily everyone's doing it for the same reason that you started doing it. But equally, I do think that everybody needs different style of coaching, so it doesn't feel as though it's like, oh, there's too many, because, you know, everybody's different, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of space out there for coaches. I don't think the market is saturated by any means. And I'd like to say that I think coaches are going to help change the world. Actually, especially now, we need people who can help us think about things positively, use our brains efficiently. And there are 1,000,001 different coaching modalities. And yeah, there's room for us all, you know, just like there are many different mentors, many different therapists. You know, there's space for all of us.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me about Dream Project Coach then. So that evolved out of that desire to almost support people, not just with strategy, but with how they approach it.
It did, but to be totally honest, it also evolved out of a vision. And as you know, Katie, I'm really keen on visioning and vision boards. It looks like you've got a vision board in the background there, which I'm very happy to see. So I'll never forget that moment. I was in the living room of our old home. We had this lovely flat in South London, and I'd been looking at what is it possible to do as a coach, like what kind of a business can you create? And I was looking at other coaches, particularly female American coaches. And there were a couple that I was just looking at their sites, their websites, and getting really inspired. And I had this kind of lightning strike moment when I thought, that is what I want to do. It's a great business to grow. And everything that I've done up to this point is going to be perfect for this business. So I've been doing marketing for a long time, mainly for organisations in the cultural field and the heritage field. And I'd also been training in coaching. And I just suddenly saw, this is just the perfect thing for me. And this is what I want to do. And I'll never forget that moment, because it came to me like this vision. And it's come true. It's actually exceeded what I thought it would be.
When you talk about vision, do you mean that you practically took the time to create a vision board, or do you mean it in the sense that you suddenly in your mind's eye had clarity around what it was going to look like?
The latter, I sort of came to me as a mental vision, my mind's eye. And that's happened to me many times. I've done lots of things, like I've founded 3 festivals in Streatham that are still going. Like one of them, I think it's about 15 years later. And that came to me as an initial mind's eye inspiration. But sometimes you can ask people, what do you want? I've literally just done this in an event. What do you want for the coming year? Make a vision board about it. And you can invite people to think about what their vision is. So there's different ways that a vision can come to you. And it can come to you as... you might be listening to a piece of music and suddenly notice that your mind is drifting to what might be. Or a common time for it is when you're on holiday, you know, when you're, especially on those lovely beach holidays, or you're just lying back in your deck chair and you just totally let go. And all of a sudden this amazing idea pops into your head. Or you're in the bath, or the shower is a popular one. And so it can be kind of a random thing that happens when you relax your mind. And because your mind is like infinitely creative and naturally so, when you relax, it kind of has time to like make all these new connections. And if you're still enough and quiet enough or ecstatic enough, they can pop into your consciousness, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a really great idea. Or as I said, you can invite people to be still and think about what do they want, and gather images together to represent some of their ideas. So there's no right way.
I do quite a lot of work with businesses on strategy, and it does surprise me that you do still come across business owners who maybe don't really know what they want for the business, and who maybe don't have that like vision. And so they're perfectly good running a day-to-day operation and kind of like almost thinking about a business in quite a small way. But if you were to say, yeah, but what do you want it to like really look like? Like, what do you want it to look like? What do you want it to feel like? They're not connected really to that at all. And it's so interesting.
It is. And I think it's sort of one of the most boring types of business you can have, when it's all about the money. I'm not anti-money. In fact, I help a lot of my clients increase their income, often doubling their day rate or increasing their annual income. You know, I'm totally comfortable and happy with people earning money. But if it's your only driver, I think it quickly becomes quite stale and uninspired, because let's think about it. One of the primary functions of having a business, apart from earning a living, is to make a difference. Your products and services should be making people's lives easier or better in some way. And the very best kind of products are advancing, this is going to sound a bit grandiose, but advancing humankind in some way. Those are businesses that are really inspiring and that are led by a vision. So I think businesses are about pure survival. They're okay, but you know, you can be selling even baked beans and have a vision, you know.
Yeah. Do you think there's a barrier though for people around it sometimes? Like there's almost like a purposeful detachment, like, oh, I don't want to go there because I don't want to deal with it, maybe?
Yes, I think a lot of people think that having a vision is like this silly, fluffy, crazy thing that maybe if you're in the healing world or you're very creative, yes, it might be appropriate, but not if you're running a quote unquote serious business. And I've done a lot of research into visioning, and I still am. And I wish I'd kept this link. I must look for it again. But I came across this study that showed that some of the top businesses, they did a survey with entrepreneurs who had created these great businesses, and a high percentage of them, it was something like 60-70%, said it had literally started with the vision. And I think right now we're living in a time when we need visionary businesses more than ever to solve or to support movement through some of these really challenging so-called wicked problems. That's what systemic analysts call it, wicked problems, those very challenging problems that we have in the world. And I think business has a place to play in that. So it's not a fluffy thing, although some people might think it. And also thinking about your question, I think some people are afraid to have a vision. That's the other thing. I've got a whole handout actually on all the different reasons people don't have a vision. I'm not going to go through all of it now, but one of them is that they had a vision before and it didn't happen, and so they're sad about that, or they feel deflated or like they failed. And feeling like a failure is one of the biggest blocks for entrepreneurs. It's very, very easy to go in that space and almost not even realize you're in that space, and keep taking action, keep going for it, but not really in your heart of heart feeling really inspired. And that's one of the worst ways to be in business, because it's really exhausting, and again, it's kind of boring. So one of the things I'm always inviting my clients to do is keep getting themselves back into that inspired space or state, because that's when you get those amazing ideas, you get the energy to do what you want to do, you find the answers to your solutions. So as you can probably tell, Katie, I'm a massive visioning advocate.
But I totally get it. So it's it's quite a new thing for me. I probably was in the category of being it's a little bit too hippie for me. But what I forget the kind of process around it. In its simplest form, it's almost saying, I'm going to create a picture of this is what I want.
Yeah.
So, and there's plenty of reasons why you might do that, in the same way that you might create any plan.
I think you've got it spot on. And if you think about it, everything that was created first starts as an idea, not always a conscious idea. And yet, of course, there are these accidents of, especially inventors who have these happy accidents. But a lot of the time, before something happens, we're imagining it happening. We all have this default idea, this default visualization of how our evening's going to go. Everyone who's watching this podcast, you're probably thinking about how tonight's going to go, how tomorrow's going to go, how this week's going to go, how the rest of your life is going to go. Even if it's vague, we have this idea. And that's why it's always so shocking when things happen in our life that were unexpected, and it's been very shocking the last 2 years, hasn't it? That nobody thought we wouldn't have thought we were living through this time. And actually, I think in the Western world as well, we've been trained to think, that happens in other countries, that happens in those countries, doesn't happen here. And actually, guess what? It's happening here, and we're having to deal with it. And that's the kind of negative way of saying it. But we also have a lot of control over how we imagine the future is going to go, and more control over what we create than we think. There is always going to be stuff like COVID happening that we have no control over. But in business, the more you focus on your dream and the more you start thinking about it, the more powerful your trajectory will be, because as I said before, you start having those ideas, your team gets inspired. And I have found it in myself and with my clients to be a really, really powerful and very effective approach.
I really found it change something in my mind when, who was it? She said, was it Siddiqui? I can't remember her surname.
Siddiqui Ray.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was her that said that when you're thinking sometimes about your visioning, or at least what you want, try not to get caught up in the how. So it's not about the how at that point. Almost don't try. And I do think that is something that so a lot of people I've worked with, and also I've caught myself doing it in my own thinking, is getting too trapped in but what are the steps here, and you just think, then you forget to think about the big picture at all.
Yes, it's something I say over and over again, is when you're at the visioning stage, don't worry about the how. And I am a massive strategist, by the way. I respect strategy, I respect research, I respect evaluation. So I'm not anti-strategy, I'm not anti-rationality. But there is a dreaming stage that I think is very neglected, and it is really, really important for sure.
Tell me a bit more then about, say, some of the clients you work with. So they're mainly, or at least did you start off mainly working with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and then evolve it more?
Yeah, so I mean, as a consultant, I've been working for decades with small to medium to large scale cultural institutions. So they can have anything up to 400 employees and budgets of, 1 to 3 million. So still small, but, smallish. But as a coach, I'm mainly working with entrepreneurs. And I started out working mostly with solopreneurs, working in the service industry. Service as in, might be a copywriter, might be another coach, that kind of thing. A photographer, sometimes they're in the healing world, like yoga, that kind of thing. And as my business grew and my visibility has grown and my confidence has grown, I'm now starting to attract people who have teams, who are 6-figure business owners, who have teams of 3 to 6 people. So they're still relatively small, but what I'm noticing is they're starting to get bigger. So I still work with solopreneurs as well, and I love it.
And they're approaching you from a capacity of, I want to grow, or I want to do X in business. Help.
Yes, that's a really good way of putting it. They typically come to me when they know that they have a big dream. So they do recognize the value of having a vision, but they have lost their way somehow. So they're usually very good at what they do. They're usually ambitious, but the ambition has been somehow tainted. They've had a few knocks, or they've tried lots of things and it's just not working. And often there are 2 reasons that it's not working. One is that they don't fully understand marketing. And I have actually coached a lot of people who are coaches or marketing experts, some of whom I would say know more than me, but it's very hard to look at yourself, so it doesn't matter that they're doing a great job for their clients. There's something missing in how they're approaching the marketing of their work, and it can be very hard to see that for yourself. And the second thing is confidence, that they lack confidence because of a perceived failure that they've had, or they've just been like ticking along but not growing. So they're doing okay, but they know that they can do more. And actually they reflect who I was about 15 years ago, because I would have said the same. I was actually very successful in my consulting, but my coaching was, I was just starting it out then. And in fact, my consulting has grown a lot as well. And I'm now in that position of, which child do I feed, which is really difficult. And I try and find work that combines the 2. But yeah, so that's what people, the solopreneurs, when I'm being a coach, are coming to me typically with those issues. And not knowing about marketing, by the way, one thing I want to say is, you will know this, anyone can go online and find like 1,000,001 resources. It's all there. But that's the problem, is it's so overwhelming. And the reason people come to me is that I can help them filter that and say, look, these are the key frameworks that are going to help you develop your business. And I can also give them bespoke feedback, because I can rummage around, a bit like, the work you're doing, and find out what's the missing piece here and help them develop that. And again, that can be quite difficult to do for yourself, even if you're a marketing expert.
I think the difficulty is as well is that, like you say, there's so much, it's overwhelming. So, there's so many channels. And if you're not trained in marketing, you're almost like, I have to do everything. And I think the process of working either with a coach, or actually with marketing experts, if your coach isn't a marketing expert, can also help you think about, narrow it down from a more commercial perspective as well. But you're right, there's just so much.
It's crazy, and a lot of it you can get for absolutely nothing. It's free, but it's like, where do you start? Who do I trust? And that's the other thing, is to find someone who's actually doing it themselves, that they are, I'm walking the talk, I'm growing my business year on year. I'm trying new things. I did my first reel today, by the way, Katie.
Oh. And how
probably lots of people watching are like, that's nothing. I've been doing reels for decades, but for me, well, not decades, I haven't been around for decades, but for me, I'm always, I've been on Facebook for ages, Instagram for ages, but haven't done that. And I'm always trying stuff. So because I don't want to be the person that's giving out the theory, but not living it. And I thought, I can't put off doing reels any longer. How did it go? Well, 3 people have liked it. So I think we can say it's early days.
Instagram will reward you as a creator.
So I've heard. Yeah.
But it's whether or not, the thing is for me with stuff like that is it takes me so long to do them. I'm just like, I can't.
It's a lot, and I did it for fun, and I did it. I'm also a Sunday painter. I'm a part-time artist, so I did it on my art feed because it's kind of like low risk, and I just wanted to work out, how do you do this? As it turns out, it wasn't that difficult, and I definitely want to start doing it on my coaching feed. There's a there's a sales coach that I'm currently in a business mastermind with called Claire Cui, and she's amazing. Definitely look her up. In fact, you should interview her because she's just a fabulous human being. And she is on Instagram like 6 times a day. Her content is amazing. It's fun and it's really clear. And I'm just like, how is she doing it? She must be on Instagram all the time. But that is her platform. It? No, it's all her. She's actually appearing. They're very, reels are usually very short, and she just knows her message really, really well. And she's really inspired me. I was looking at her and I was just thinking, I need to up my game. So I'm always learning, and I enjoy it. I love marketing. I love working out the different platforms. And, I'm not one of those people that's got a PhD in Facebook advertising. I would never claim to be that. But I like to know the basics because I'm the person that helps people step back and think which is the best platform for me, what are the basic things I need to do, and then hire the expert to do the doings for you. So I'll probably hire someone to help me at some point, but I want to, dip my toe in and understand it first.
And also sometimes if you do find that kind of process enjoyable, then, why not?
I think why not? Yeah, I've put my creativity into it. I know lots and lots of people who hate it with a passion and do not want to be on social media. And, you don't have to be on social media to sell. Depends what you're doing. But I'm like, why would you? That for me, it's a bit like saying, I don't want to use transport. It's like essential.
Yeah. I think we're definitely in a space now where you've got to be somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. Because that's the first place people will look. But although I know lots of people who don't do a lot of it, they're highly, highly strategic and they prioritize heavily what they do. But I'm all over it because I'm just fascinated by what people are doing. I find reels so creative. I just can watch them for hours. I absolutely love them, and I'm gonna
have to look now.
Oh, well, they're just wonderful, and it's like this. I love the community of reels. It's like you get quote unquote ordinary people from all around the world, as well as business people who are like definitely there to sell. There's like just everyday people singing and dancing and gathering via particular hashtags. And, I found myself sort of disappearing down this rabbit hole of, let's look at all the people who are doing this particular dance move or saying this particular thing. And it's so creative. And I think it's this wonderful conversation that's emerged during lockdown times where people have found a way to connect. It's the same with Clubhouse. It's like really interesting how people are using technology in this time, and this innate joyful creativity that we have as human beings is just really, risen to the fore.
If you get it right, it can be a real antidote, can't it, to the kind of I love the internet versus the Jesus, I hate the internet. So yeah, it can be really nice. Do you think, as women, we've got particular challenges?
That's a really great question.
Obviously, that's a massive question. Let me be really specific. I mean, particularly pertaining to growing a business from a kind of, I guess most people will probably do it from one-man band and scale up.
Yeah, I do think we have, and I'm hesitating a little bit because I'm really interested in this new emerging conversation about the validity of gender, you know, and I totally respect people who are like looking at gender fluidity. And it's a really interesting conversation. I love the idea of dismantling gender on one level because there's so much attached to gender that it can be negative. So my answer is yes and no. And I'm going to focus on the yes. The no is kind of, yeah, gender fluidity is going to be really interesting to see where that takes us and how it dismantles old patriarchal attitudes that have held women back. And my yes is, it's still highly relevant at the moment to talk about challenges that women face, because you only have to look at the pay gap. The gender pay gap is real. And women who are creating their own businesses, there's like an enormous opportunity. So there's huge opportunity and huge freedom. But there's also, I think, psychologically, we have a way to go. And some people call it imposter syndrome. But I love this new discourse that's coming out where people are saying, why are we saying we're the imposters? Because it's actually this thing on our shoulders from centuries of not being leaders, not having a say, not feeling empowered, not feeling entitled. So I'm finding with, something like 98% of my clients are female. And the biggest challenge, as I said before, is confidence, and a lot of that, I think, comes from how we're socialized as women to be modest, not lead, in case anyone thinks we're a biatch.
Bossy.
Yeah, bossy. Lack of experience, because we may not have had any role models around us, and we still are waiting. There's a lot of female leaders now, which is really exciting, but still, there are lots of situations where we're surprised if a woman's leading or takes charge. And a lot of people, I've seen it with my own eyes, can sometimes really tear a female leader apart if she doesn't behave the way that we expect women to behave. So all of those things I think we are dealing with. And then we are still the primary caregivers with children. I noticed during the very first lockdown, I did a lot of free workshops or low-cost workshops to support entrepreneurs, which was amazing time of just really thinking, what can I do to help, and doing these workshops and thinking, is anyone going to show up? And people showed up. It was amazing, predominantly women. And I had to start changing my coaching times and some of my workshop times to evenings or early mornings, just to accommodate women who suddenly had their kids at home and they couldn't get anything done. It's just really hard for female entrepreneurs, because all the stuff we already know about, that, we've heard the stories ad infinitum in the news. So being primary caregivers, I think, can be challenging, although there are so many inspirational women with children who've created businesses because they had children. They've noticed the gap around, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know there are lots of really incredible women who've invented new nappies or, new childcare structures. So, and I do think that women in business is one of the most exciting areas of business right now. And I think in the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to see some amazing things happening. There already are, as many, many amazing female entrepreneurs. But there's another thing, which is not to stereotype us as women, but we are socialized to be nurturing. I'm not saying all women are innately nurturing, but we are trained to be that way. And we bring that into our businesses. And it's our friend, it's also our enemy. It's great because we are able to sell in a nurturing way, which is the kind of new sales model. And it holds us back sometimes because we can be too nice. But I think this whole idea of nurturing, and it's been proven that women, by the way, when they give philanthropically, they give to communities, whereas men tend to build monumental things, which are still useful, but, you know, like has their name on it, giant monuments and things. And I know it's almost, it feels like a ridiculous stereotype saying it, and but and I'm sure that's changing. It's definitely changing now, but, you know, historically, but we're socialized to be very community minded, which is very good for marketing, because contemporary marketing is all about community and nurturing and listening, you know, all those things. And also when we have money, going back to the philanthropic thing, we benefit communities. So we're very powerful with our money. And I do think that's the new paradigm that we desperately need in the world right now. That was a long answer.
No, it's like, so because you recommended the book Rachel Rodgers. No, you sent it, didn't you?
Yes.
And everyone...
We should all be millionaires.
Yes.
Yeah. And
in that book, she talks about the fact that women, when they have money, spend it. So we spend, you know, we give more and we spend more.
Yes.
And it's the fact that I was thinking about it the other day. I think I just got out of the shower and I was like, God, it's so annoying, isn't it? When people talk about like the pink pound and how we're charged more because for, I don't know, the same thing because of women being women. And you just think it's so interesting to think about the fact that we should all be more wealthy as women because we are more likely to spend more. We're more likely to spend on support. We're more likely to spend on help. We're more likely to outsource. And as you say, we're more likely to give philanthropically. And so the ripple effect of that is so much greater than having like a few people super wealthy but sitting on it.
Yeah. And I'm not averse to wealth, but personally I just think there's a point beyond which, what do you want that money for? You know, like it's such a joy to give and make a difference, and you can still have a luxury lifestyle if you want, but you can still give. It's such a wonderful experience to be able to do that, and especially to direct that money to where it will make a difference. It's just such an incredible feeling. But the flip side of that is, you know, from what you were saying, is we don't always save, we don't always invest, we don't accumulate, and we need to learn. Yeah, we need to learn to do that as well, I think, because we've been trained. There's a really good thought leader around this, Barbara Stanny, who I've done one of her programs. She's just a wonderful woman around money, and she said, you know, we're trained as women to wait for Prince Charming, or, you know, Princess Charming, but you often in the heterosexual model, it's we're waiting for a man to come and save us, and it's kind of like lodged archetypally in our brains. You know, we've got to learn to think, I'm the one that's going to change things. I'm the leader here. And that's still a very, very difficult place for women to stand, is to say, I'm leading here. And it's really important to do in business, you know, because you're either going to be leading a team or you're the one that's going to be visible. And women can find that intensely uncomfortable. I know I did, until I invested in quite a lot of leadership training, and I still do, but I'm much more comfortable with it than I used to be, where I would just be terrified that my team or people, my partners or anyone I was working with, would think I was this bossy, you know what, you know.
Oh God, it's so bad though that's what was ingrained in you. Yeah,
and then, you know, look at it. Look at how effective it's been. You know, how powerful that conditioning has been for lots of us. Not all of us. There were some incredibly kick-ass women out there, and also sometimes I think there's a new conversation around finding our way of leading, a feminine leadership, it's often called, or the feminine divine in the more spiritual circles. Because some women, in this classic kind of story of the 80s, decided to be more male than the men.
Know. And you meet them. You do still meet them, don't you?
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah, and they're challenging, they're scary. Although, that's appropriate in some contexts. I think you have to be a bit of a ball break. If you're working at high level politics or situations where people's lives are at stake, you probably need to be comfortable with being directive, but there's still a balance. I like to leave people feeling empowered, not destroyed.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you go to that, like you say, that kind of 1980s ball breaker vibe, it's still a defense mechanism. It's just a different one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true.
I just want to pick your brains quickly about vision boarding, and then I will let you go.
You don't have to let me go. I'm having such fun here.
I'll be like, you're like desperate for your dinner. You're like eating the table or something. So what I'm really interested in talking about with vision boarding is, so if someone were thinking, how do I do this? Where do you recommend they start?
For a vision board, it's really easy. So let me just show you a couple so that anyone who's watching, obviously I can see yours in the background. There's different ways of doing it. This is, I'm still working through this vision board because it's for my financial year. So I'll make a new one at the end of February because my financial year strangely ends at the end of February. I can't remember why. So this is a vision board. It's essentially a collage. And how to do it is to sit and think about what inspires you, what you want for your future. So imagine you're making a vision board for this year, 2022. Some people like to have a hot bath and relax. Some people like to listen to music. And I've actually got a free guided visualization you can listen to if you want, 6 minutes, just to help guiding you. There's lots of people that offer that kind of thing. And start to think about, what do I want, and you can be specific. You can think about, how much money do I want, or how do I want to feel? Feelings are good if you're not sure exactly what you want. How do you want to feel? And then you will have prepared some magazines, and you just start ripping out images that call to you, that inspire you. I like to do it in a kind of random, instinctive way. And because often, even when you think, I pulled that image out in 10 seconds, I didn't think about it. When you go back to it later, you'll realize, wow, that image really means something, because our visual processing is so fast. It's much faster than the conscious mind. So it's an incredibly powerful way of tapping into the heart, the unconscious mind, or let's say the subconscious mind. And then you just stick them down. It's best to fill the whole space. Some people like to leave space. That can work if you're wanting to create a calmer feel, but it's good to create it almost like you're looking at a movie. In fact, some people do create movies, like they gather images and put them onto a video, which is really powerful to have movement in it. I like to add words, but just a few. I don't like lots and lots of words. Some people do lots of words. And I do like them to be quite feelings based. So, if you look at this, it's quite open to interpretation, but you get a vibe from it.
Yeah.
Some people, so for me, it's more like a kind of an incredible within reach. It's like saying I'm going to have this amazing year, which I did, actually, I have done at financial year. Some people like to do more literal ones, like, this is my goal, I want to earn X amount. Sometimes I do that. I often do lots of vision boards for different projects. And so it's basically a collage. There's 1,000,001 different ways you can kind of ramp it up, but that's the basics. And some people like to have music playing while they're pulling out the images. One of the things I do after I've done it, sometimes I'll go back to it and list literally what I see, and then turn those words into a poem or a story, which I know might sound even more airy-fairy in doing a vision board, but it's really powerful. And I'll just give you an example, Katie, and you're going to have to stop me because I can go on and on about vision boards.
No, I don't want to stop you.
Oh, bless you. Well, let's keep going then. So you see here, this is a honeycomb beehive. Excuse the nail polish. I need to redo my nails. It's been a busy week and it's only Monday. So this is a beehive. And what I notice in quite a lot of my vision boards, I can't find another one that's got it here. Here it is. I've got hundreds of vision boards, by the way. Here's another one. So this one was about the year. This one is about money, because I do a lot of work around money, because it's really important that you have something to sell to be comfortable with money. And also I want to hold the space for my clients and help them step into feeling empowered around money. But on this one, can you notice again, there's the honeycomb?
Yeah, honeycomb.
Yeah. So I didn't consciously think, I'm going to do a honeycomb. Yeah. What do you find interesting in it?
Well, so, I mean, my mind automatically goes, because bees and the way they hive and honeycomb is incredibly fascinating. And isn't it to do with what was the mathematician that created it's like nature's formula, isn't it?
A Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's almost like it's really, I was going to say profound, but I don't mean profound. I mean like natural.
Oh, I like that, because the nature features a lot in my vision boards. And what it means for me is I looked at it and I thought, I've got the honeycomb there, and I often have symbols of community. So what it means for me is abundant community, because bees are known for creating these incredible systems and communities. And actually, now as I'm speaking to you, I'm realizing there's always the queen bee, right? But they're this lovely abundance. You're right, it's natural. And so that's my subconscious mind speaking to me. And guess what? One of the main things I need to focus on is community. And just, I was saying earlier, women are great at creating community. But it's like my subconscious mind told me that before, and this loops back to strategy. We could go deep here, Katie, but it's like your mind. I've got to tell you a story actually of this time. Your mind knows the strategy before you're conscious of the strategy, right? Like I'm getting into quantum stuff now, but I remember reading this is the story, this amazing story. I can't remember where I read it, but it's all about the mind. And it was about this guy who was an architect and he'd been struggling to come up with this idea, this design for this building that he was in charge of, and he was behind time. And normally drawing out the plans would take a long time. I think maybe 2 weeks or something, I don't know. He took some, shall we say, some psychedelic drugs, which I'm not advocating, but it was interesting that was his access, his gateway to opening his mind. And he had drawn up these plans and designed it within 4 hours. And he said that would be considered impossible in everyday life. And there's also another story of this guy who's a famous guy with autism. He's called Stephen something. He's a young black guy. And there's this great YouTube video of him flying over, I think it's Rome, and he's just literally flying over it in a helicopter, 5 minutes, and then he sits down. He's got this panoramic sheet of paper on the wall, and he draws with incredible accuracy the whole vista that you would see from a helicopter, and you would just say, that is freaking impossible. How the hell does he do that? And of course he has a very particular kind of mind. But I hear those stories and I think, our minds are incredible, and we're not, so when people are struggling with strategy, I always think, go to the vision, get some postcards out and start talking about it, because sometimes we can get really jaded, or our rational mind is useful, but it sometimes gets us in a rut, and doing crazy stuff like this takes our brain into a different space.
I really think if you're listening to us right now and you're in that headspace of going, this just is weird, you must try it. Because talking about Siddiqui again, she was talking about the fact that she has well-being mood boards. She has, work mood boards, home mood boards, relationship mood boards.
Yes.
And I genuinely, I know it does sound whack, but I listened to you, Mel, when you said, try not to overthink the process. And, I tried not to be like, oh, what does this mean? Oh my God, what does this mean? And instead I was just like, what appeals to my eye? And, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's quite weird then when you look at it afterwards with a different perspective, that it makes sense to your conscious mind. And you're like, right, I get it. I get why. So do try it, even if you're listening to us and just thinking, right, we're advocating psychedelics, which, by the way, there is some very interesting research into. around healing, not healing necessarily depression, but supporting depression. I'm not surprised it opens the mind.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating it, but there are therapists who are using various psychedelics under very highly controlled, safe circumstances to heal trauma, and they're having amazing results.
It's really interesting. If you're interested in stuff like that, Tim Ferriss on his podcast talks about it a lot.
I love Tim Ferriss. He's amazing.
I know.
Can I just say one more thing about, if you're watching this and you think this is crazy, I just want to underline, I'm a very, very rational, strategic person. I really am. And I'm really encouraging my clients to get their funnel structures right, think about their target segments. I do all of that. But there is another layer that is neglected. And just to give you an example, I was coaching someone the other day, without giving away any detail because it's always confidential. I have coached a number of people in the STEM world, like scientists, right, who are super rational. I've got them doing vision boards. They've loved it. And the other thing that I work with is language. I'm always listening for what's the metaphor that people are using when they speak. Sometimes people are talking about a challenge they have and they're talking about it like it's a physical object. We all say things like, there's a weight off my shoulders, let's get this moving. It's all metaphorical language. And there's an amazing book. I'm only halfway through. It's taking about 2 years to read it because it's so intense, but it's called Metaphors We Live By. And the more you listen to the language people are using, and this is great for anyone out there who is a coach or is a consultant or has a team, the more you train yourself to listen deeply, it's almost like people are opening up their head and telling you everything that's going on. So often when I coach people are like, I literally had someone last week say, that was amazing. How did you know? How do you know I'm thinking that? And I'm just like, because I'm listening to your language really, really deeply and listening to the architecture of how you're representing things. And, if someone keeps saying, we've got to get through this, that they're seeing some kind of barriers, obvious. But because we're so used to people using language like that, we don't always pause and think, how is this person really, what's this person's experience? And that's another really sort of powerful, I guess for me, it links to visioning, because it's almost like the language we use is saying how we're seeing things in our head. And when you learn that you can change that and start using, we call it reframing in coaching, you can literally change your life. You can change how life occurs to you. And it's incredible. So, it might seem a bit weird, but trust me, it really works.
It's like a deeper level of self-awareness, isn't it? Like the signs, the symbols, the, I don't know, like you say, the meaning, it's all there. We're not really very good at reading it.
Yeah, and if we were always present to it and thinking about it, we'd probably go mad. It's too much information. Coaching is a very highly kind of specialised conversation. I just had an example that popped into my head actually, because I coach people a lot around marketing, but also money, because people can get really kind of crazy around money. They can have shame or anger, or they avoid it but say they want it, all those things. And think about how we talk about money, like filthy lucre, dirty cash. Was it filthy rich? It's like money is dirty. That's one thread, and even if we're saying those things jokingly, it can have a massive impact on business. And I'm looping it back again to women. We can often have a real discomfort around money. And so when I'm coaching women around money, I'm really listening to what's the language they're using, what are the metaphors they're using, how does their breathing change, what's the tone of their voice, all those things, can bring the subconscious up to the conscious. And then when we can see it or we're talking about it, we can then start to say, do you really think that? Do you really want to have that relationship to, it could be money, it could be teams, could be partnerships, could be anything in your business.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? We talked about it before, about this idea that it's not the reality that wealth is new for women. We haven't got generations of being trained, because up until fairly recently we weren't really allowed it.
we were kind of property. We were the thing that money was exchanged, or it was denied us, or we were. Was it chattel? I think is the word. We were chattels or something like that. So and I was just watching this film last night. Amazing film by Sofia Coppola, about Marie Antoinette.
Oh yeah.
And she's like the kind of poster girl for somebody who just frittered money away. And she did. Although what we're not told, which I learned from the film, was she was only 14 when she married the French king. But, when you look historically at those stories, it's kind of reinforces all those negative stereotypes.
Yeah.
Okay, she wasn't, a great one for helping the populace, but it's like that's those stories. They're kind of like these archetypes that are dragged out, about us.
They're still everywhere, aren't they? This sense of what do we do with money? It's like, I don't know, get our nails done. We might very well get our nails done, but that's probably not all we're going to do.
There's some very exciting women I keep seeing now on Instagram who are training people in how to invest money, training women how to invest money.
I wonder if we're getting the same Instagram adverts.
Probably. Is it these two women who've got this new thing? I forgot what it's called.
It's like Women Invest or something.
Something like that, yeah. It's really good marketing, actually, because I keep noticing it and I'm like, maybe I should check them out.
I know. I think I'm always put off by the word invest because I'm a bit like, at the moment, it's like, what? Invest what? Maybe I need to. But anyway, we'll get to that. Mel, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so lovely to chat through with you. And I know that you've got, talking about freaking everyone out with our conversation about vision boards, hopefully not, you've got a challenge coming up, haven't you?
I have. Thank you so much for mentioning it. So this is one of my favourite things to do. I do it 2 or 3 times a year. It's called Open to Miracles. And sorry, if anyone thought I was woo-woo, you definitely think I'm woo-woo now. The Business Vision Board Challenge. So it's a 5-day event online. It takes place on Zoom and on Facebook. It's 7:00 every night, UK time. And in that challenge, it's free, by the way. The first day we look at your vision and you create a vision board. So it's like basically looking at what do you want? What's your highest desire and dream for your business, no matter where you are, no matter how successful you are. You can be starting or you can be very successful. There's usually another level to go to. And then on subsequent days, we look at things like, what's your strategy? And I do that in a creative way. So you kind of get ideas from other people on how they would approach your strategic challenge. We look at your relationship to money, and we do that in a creative way. Excuse me, hang on one second. And we also look at who you need to connect with. So we look at networks. It's very creative. It is strategic as well. If you're a rational thinker, there's definitely a rational angle to it as well. So I cater for all sort of different types of thinking. It runs from the 17th to the 21st of February. I don't know if you attach links to this podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say I will put the details in the links. The other thing I was just going to ask you about this is it just for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs? Can people with side projects or people who are employed but maybe also have stuff that they're trying to achieve within a job framework?
Absolutely. It's open to entrepreneurs and people with a passion project. So if you're an employee and that, you're always going to have a project, aren't you? If you're a manager or even if you're an entrepreneur, so it's relevant because ultimately it's about goals. It's about who do you need to connect with. Even the money thing, even if you don't have a budget and you're an employee, you're still going to be interested in that because all of us are always interested in money, right? So I've had people from all those categories take part and absolutely love it. It's quite high energy. It's fun. I've run it twice before. So this will be my 3rd time and would love to see you there. And it's a no-brainer. You come and check it out. If you don't like it, it's not going to cost you anything. So you might as well come and see, how it works and enjoy it.
I can recommend.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Thanks, Mel, lovely to see you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Marketing Forum podcast. If you are not already, please do like and subscribe. And you can follow us on social media or subscribe to our mailing list to find out more about episodes coming your way soon.